Ohana. Today we are going to be checking out Spiritfarer. Not really too sure what this is about, but we'll have a good time anyway. Hi Kaiser, how are you? Hope D&D's going well. Let's get into it. Single player. Wow, we get to like a co-op. Ah. Cat, you floofy. Is that Chiron? Ah, finally. Game, did you just freeze on me? I thought for a second you would never wake up, little one. Oh, X, okay. How ironic that would have been, would it not? It's Chiron! I called it! It's Chiron! I'm Chiron. The Spiritfarer. Well, that is what I would have been until your arrival. I cannot say that I'm sad to leave, but I still had a few things left to do here. I'm afraid you will have to pick up things where I left them. It is, after all, my very last day. And you are? Stella. Welcome, Stella. I see you brought a friend here with you. What's his name? Daffodil. I see. You two will share the burden then. And take it over from me. As I said, in a few minutes I will be gone from this world. And that is why you are here. You will be the new Spiritfarer. Listen, your task here will be far from easy, but simple nonetheless. Go fetch the stray spirits stranded on the islands, and when they are ready, bring them back here. Dying souls can't pass away on their own. You will have to help them fulfill their last requests, and be at their service until their last breath. So we're becoming Chiron! This big round bridge over there is the Everdor. The Alpha where everything starts, at the Omega where everything ends. This is where all the quests get completed, and where existence meets its threshold. There's no task more important than this one. Never forget this, Stella. Here, there is something I need to give you. Glowing orb. Now be really careful with it. It is the Everlight, the symbol of your status here and the only tool you will ever need. Wait, what are you? Kitty! What are you doing? Get out of there! Oh, how highly inappropriate. Well, that settles it. The Everlight will help you throughout your travels. It will be the light that shines in the darkness, the last reigning hope of the departed. Kitty! I don't think going into Chiron's robe was appropriate there, Kitty. Hope is a flame, the light that never falters, the beacon of eternity. It is heavy and inconvenient, but there is no greater duty than this one. The fate of the lost souls rests on your shoulders. Look, I was overwhelmed too at first. Just try to keep your focus, take it one step at a time. You will soon get used to this place, accustomed to these moments. You are the new Spiritfarers, after all. Oh, and one last thing. Once I am gone, you will have to find a ship of your own. Mine is not suited for you, and it will fade away once I am gone. You might find one not too far from here if you keep rowing in the right direction for some time. Probably. It is time. Here I go. So long, Stella, and good luck. You will need it. Hi, Chiron! That's not a skidder. That's not a skidder. Where did Chiron go? Chiron, come back! I want Big Man to come back! No! Come back, Big Man! Fine. Press A to jump, hold A to jump higher, okay? Hold... Oh! Oh, okay. Hold, okay. Stella? It really is you. Stand up straight and let me get a look at you. You look good. A daffodil is here too, I see. We have to find a lint roller then. Might not be that obvious after all. It's me, Gwen. Good thing you found me. But if you hear it means... Oh. You are the new Spiritfarer. You are the one replacing Chiron. I was trying to get rid of him and only ended up here by accident. I'm stuck on this disgusting island for about a week, living off sardines and cigarettes. Funny how I used to be the one getting you out of trouble before. I can see you have an Everlight now. Of course. See the boat over there? That's a barge. That's the one. It's obviously slightly shabby, but let's commandeer it. I'd wager it'll work since you're the Spiritfarer. Farer, finder, wow. Okay, meet me on the deck over there. I'll explain it all. I promise I can read. Sometimes. Can I interact? Ding, ding, ding! Whee! There's a couch! I can sit on the couch! Oh! You pet the kitty! 10 out of 10 game, you can pet the cat. Over here. Okay, here it goes. Hope my fur coat won't be too damaged. Whoa! Seizure warning! Wonderful. I'm not one to jump for joy, but this feels good. Much better than anticipated. So, the way I see it, this boat is yours now, don't you think? Good. And as you're the Spiritfarer, welcome stray spirits as your new job. And once aboard, they will assume their true forms. Well, it's my theory anyway. Why are you looking at me like that? You need to come here and give me a hug. Hug. Aww! That's so cute! Much better. Come with me now. Let's take a look at this chaos. It's so cute! You can hug the floofy! Oh no! What a mess. Reminds me of Aunt Petunia's old yard. Beautiful, unorganised testament to someone's laziness. The kitty just meowed! Oh my god! Or a vital impossibility to get rid of anything. At any rate, we should do something about this, or my dust allergies will be back. Let me think. There's only one way to clean this up. You have to meet Albert. He's your local shipwright, and his jokes are garbage. But he's the only one who can fix your boat. We should head to Albert's shipyard. You must be wondering how to make this ship move. It's really easy, actually. There, let me give you this key I found on the island. It'll unlock that cabin in the back. You should find a map projector in there. How do I know all this? Well, I was planning an escape, remember? And you know me, I plan things meticulously. Very meticulously. Go, open up that cabin, Stella. The map projector should be simple enough to use, and you just have to go to Albert's shipyard. Come on, kitty! Okay. Stella? As I understand, this ship is powered by your Everlight. That's how it cruises the ocean and reveals the stray spirits. It also explains why I couldn't do anything by myself. You must admit, it's quite fascinating. Look, I know you must feel overwhelmed. Chiron, the Evador, the Spiritfarers, this place, this boat. Me being here, it's a lot. You must be wondering what's going on. Truth be told, I don't really know either. But I'm here for you. I'll do my best to help you and try to make sense of it all. As I said earlier, I wanted to leave by myself. Somehow, I just couldn't. Now that I see you, I think I know why. I'll give you some space for now. Don't hesitate to explore this ship. You can even give that fishing rod a try. The world is your oyster. Seagull! Ah! Ain't much to do on the ship at the moment. Whee! I'm fishing! One of my favourite things to do in games. Oh, that's dangerous. I might spend all my time here. Oh, it's dangerous. I'm catching us all dinner. Well, I don't think we're gonna be eating a shoe, but you know, someone might if they're a goat. Alright, I got us all dinner. Here we are. Now head down to Albert's shipyard and upgrade your blueprint station. It's the only way to clear this clutter. I'm curious about what it's all made of. Considering the smell, I'd say at least 7 different types of dirt and dust. That's kind of cool that the thing turns into an ore. Over here. Oh, he's a sharky! Welcome to my shipyard, young traveller, where my prices are a customer's best friend. I'm Albert. Been in the business of shipbuilding for ages, so I assume you're the new Spiritfarer. Well, of course you are. Anyway, you've been able to start this ship and bring it here after all. Gwen was right to point you towards my humble enterprise. Ha! Let me see what you have here. Nice little dinghy. Funny how it looks exactly like the one I built some time ago stored in my old shipyard. See, Chiron was unhappy about his gloomy and dank ark. Actually, he was always complaining about everything. But the customer's always right. So I built him a newer, better one. Of course, he would never abandon his previous boat. All habits die hard. But don't worry, you can keep this one. Let's just call this a loan. And let me tell you something. You know how we always joke about the construction here? Don't worry, we're still working on it. Anyway, with a little bit of love, this bird will be resplendent again. The first thing you need is a proper blueprint table. Since it's your lucky day and I'm feeling generous, I'll offer it to you, free of charge. Mind you, it's just a bit bare bones in terms of functionality, but the subsequent upgrades will come at such a small price you want to buy them almost immediately. Simply direct me to the upgrade this ship. I guess that's it. There you go. You'll be able to build and edit your buildings on your boat. What a treat. But if you really want to upgrade a boat, your boat in size and pleasure, I'm your guy. Come back when you feel your boat is getting too crowded. Cheers. Can I hug you? Oh, I can't hug him. I want to hug him. finally. Good. Albert gave it to you for free, and he said he loaned the ship to you. Ominous. Hard to know what he has in mind, but it doesn't sound reassuring. Anyway, let's focus on the task at hand for now. Cleaning up this deck. You can go to your new blueprint table above your cabin and select the move option. In it, you'll be able to remove any building and get back resources. Go for it. I'll wait down here. Wonderful. You did a wonderful job, Stella. And the good news is that you have enough resources to add a guest house to your ship. And that's a savoury amenity. Newly welcome spirits such as myself have a temporary place to relax and sleep. Well, sleep, not really. I can tell you for sure that no one will be thrilled to spend more than one night there. But it beats sleeping on the deck. Stars are pretty, but the water's stiff and the humidity is hard to tolerate. I'll leave you to it. Have fun. Field, kitchen. I need to build a guest house. Very nice. His guest house is very pretty. It has your touch. Nice work as usual. Now at last I have a place to sit. Down and enjoy the view. Oh, wait. What's going on? Something else is happening. I should have expected this. I'm actually hungry. Very hungry. You know how terrible a cook I am, but I remember you being absolutely fantastic at it. Oh, you might have fished a few fishes already. Trouble is, I can't really eat an entire raw fish. I could try for sure, but I'll probably choke on the fish bone and never survive. That's not how you want me to go, as absurd as this sounds. So you should keep on using this blueprint table of yours and build a kitchen abroad. I'm pretty sure I've seen the plans for it in there, as well as the necessary resources. Damn. You require bright jelly, and there's only one way to get some. Look, I should have told you when I first met you here. Something that scares the hell out of me. A dark presence. And I carry from it. A void that swallows all light included. It can take many forms, and for me, it's always jellyfish. Yes, I'm fully aware of the irony. The bright jelly you need for the kitchen is, well, only these jellyfish can provide it to you. So there's no other option. I'll have to face my fears. But you're here. You can do it. There will appear as a dark patch of pure fear on your map, so you can't miss it. Go. I'll take some time to prepare myself. We have an ad in 9 minutes, so I'll pause here. That way those who come in don't get any sort of pre-rolls, and I'll see you all on the other side. and welcome back from ads. Oh, Hannah, let's get back into this. I do hope that my voice acting isn't bothering anybody. Not the greatest at it. But I try. And thank you for the drink, Kaiser. Oof. And the posture check. I took a drink while we were in ads. Fish! I hope D&D's going well for you, at least. Oh! I got my hoodie delivered yesterday. And can I tell you, the thing is so damn comfortable. I was falling asleep in my chair wearing it because I was so warm. And I had Mothership try it. And she was like, you're not going to get back, it's fine now. She's like, it's so comfy. She's like, it's a little big. And I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to be. It's a one size fits most. Okay, we gotta go. Can I stop fishing? Okay, I can. Stella! Here we are. Damn, here they come. Remember, set your eyes on the ones with bright jelly. They should be visible enough. That said, pop as many as you can, you'll get glims anyway. I will wait for you inside, it's just too hard for me to stay out there. Okay, go ahead, I believe in you. So I got my hoodie yesterday, and I let Mothership try it on, right? Oh my god, the thing was so damn comfortable. I was falling asleep in my chair with it, and I literally could not. I had to take it off because I was falling asleep, and I let Mothership try it. She said I wasn't getting it back. She said it's hers now. And then she was like, why is it so large? And I told her it's because it's a one size fits most. And I said that's why it's so large. They don't do just sizes. And she's also like, it's heavy too. It's, yeah, it's made out of like sharp, I guess. It's really nice though. Look at all these jellies! I'm trying to get as many of these jellies as I'm supposed to. I don't know how many more jellies I'm supposed to get. Bye, jellies! Fantastic. Okay, I'm nearly impressed. You rocked out there. Tumbling and diving like a shooting star. And like the slightest fear and no hesitation at that. You definitely haven't lost your touch, Stella. And you've even gathered enough bright jelly to build a proper kitchen. Go for it. I'll be patiently waiting, slowly digesting myself. Right, I need a kitchen. Lovely kitchen. You can now use the kitchen's oven. It should be rather simple. Put any one ingredient into the oven and wait for it to be cooked. You can even try these loose corn kernels that have been hanging around in my pockets. I can't wait to see you cooking in your cooking glory again. You've got this. I don't know what pockets. I'm a Poppy going. I can smell it. I could eat anything. Just give me some food. Well, I won't die just yet. Thanks, Stella. It's better than I thought it could be. But then again, you've always been a wonder in the kitchen. Don't forget, spirits don't run on sunshine and water. We need a good meal once in a while. It'll be up to you to understand who's fond of what. As for me, I'm sure you remember, I've always loved comfort food. And I would die for a cup of coffee, but I'm not that picky. I can eat anything. Just never the same thing twice. Oh, and before I forget, here's something I was supposed to give you. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but an obol is a symbol of passage. It's a fee each spirit has to pay you. But something tells me you knew that already. Okay, let's keep on improving this craft. As you must have seen in your blueprint table, there is both a field and a garden blueprint, which means you can grow many different things and turn this ship into an adorable farm of sorts. You should add a field first, in my opinion. It's going to be easy to find the resources around here, and you can grow linen in it, which in turn will be used to craft more things. In addition to building a field, we should go buy seeds to use it in. That will come later. I need you to visit an island close by. It's called Mostine Cove, and there's something on it we need. I'll tell you when we get there. Build. Okay, so I can't build that. I have to go to the cove. Okay. That's right. Do I go to the crates first? Or do I go to the cove? I want the crates. I want the stuff in the crates. Look, I got a bed! I got the bed! Hi, mothership. I didn't mean to. I wanted to cook all of them. Cook all my fishies. Oh! Hang it. I keep hitting the wrong buttons. Cook. There we go. You're just gonna hang out in there? Don't ask me how, but I've met Albert already. He definitely is a shark. Oh, I was talking about how you trod the hoodie on and you didn't want to give it back. But his interest in all things maritime will be helpful. Such as the boat upgrade he sells at an outrageously high price. Those will be able to cross ominous weather barriers in the world. They look like classic mythical challenges again. A bit cliche if you ask me. Stella? Ah, yes. I forgot to tell you about this. As you see, the boat stops at night. But it's a side effect of your ever light being, well, light. Or something, or some other technicality. That being said, it will allow people to sleep undisturbed. You, in the meantime, can do anything you want, tackle unfinished business, or just chill on the deck under the stars. I suggest you go for sleep too, in that cosy little room atop your cabin. You will wake up refreshed and ready to go, and the ship will start up again in the morning. Oh, and talking about that, you know me, waking up on time has never been my forte. You can ring that big bell over there to wake people up. Remember, only do it at the right time. Early morning should do the trick. Speaking of which, time for me to take a nap. See you tomorrow, Stella. Have a good night. Dang, these fishies take a long time to cook. I'm just going to take them out since I have to go to sleep. sleep until morning? Yes. Oh, okay. Ooh! I got a limestone! And copper ore. Oh, very nice. Okay. Morning! Wakey, wakey! Ooh! Ooh! Stella? You know, I'm delighted that you're here with me, but I'm not surprised one bit. But adds up, you here, taking care of me in my final hours. You've always cared so damn much about others, always protected those you found vulnerable. Even pedantic snobs like me. Remember the day my father yelled at the cat? We just got out of elementary school. You were wearing those blue sneakers with the glittery tags. And there you were, yelling back at my father like you were on a mission. Father turned red and smashed the purple Delano vase. It was rad. Get hogged! Thank you. Have some popcorn, please. Can't eat the same thing twice. I don't hate myself that much. You can cook logs? Why would you cook a log? Why would you cook a maple log? What? Yes, wood sounds very good for dinner. Oh, fuck. I'm so hungry I could eat a whole log of maple wood. Make it make sense. I could go for an amuse bouche. A what? A who's he bastard, was he? Part beaver? Maybe. Well, all I'm getting is herring, so probably not the best. Get out of here, you girls! You rats with wings! I'm just gonna stand here and wait for this to cook, I guess. Kitty, what are you doing? That is not a toy! Kitty, that's not a toy! I don't think Kitty cares. I need more maple logs in order to build a field. Mostine Cove discovered. Look at that. We should hop on that island over there. Maybe we'll find something interesting. I want this fish to cook though. I don't want to burn it. It's taking its sweet old time. Go away, you chicken with wings! I'll cook you next! Next thing you know, I'll be cooking myself some seagull. How long does it take for this fish to cook? I'm like running around like, finish cooking. I hope D&D's going okay, Kaiser. I don't know what you're up to. I just know that that's what you're doing. I also know that it's stupid warm here today. I was saying I hope Dungeons and Dragons is going well. It is stupid warm here today. It's 10 degrees Celsius here today, and it's like, that's not winter. And we're only supposed to get hotter. It's going, okay. I'm sitting here waiting for this fish because I don't want to lose my fish. Fish! How to tell if you have ADHD? You can't have your character sit still while you wait for something. Yeah! Fish! We're going on an adventure! Woo! Here we go. What a majestic tray. Well, you can cut it down. Yes, it's fine, I promise. It's the best way to keep the wood you need, actually. But don't worry, they'll regrow over time. Another interesting fact about the Everlight. It's the cat! The cat! A cat's just hanging on it! Oh! Well done. Congratulations. For you've become Death, the Destroyer of Worlds. Jokes aside, that's how you do it. Are you going ahead cutting down more trees? Then we can go back to the boat and be in the field with all those maple logs. I'll be next to the raft. Yeah! I thought it was cute! Kitty's trying to help. Cat's like, I don't fucking know what's going on, but I'm doing it anyway. Ooh. Hold X as long as possible to break a mining node. Oh. Okay. To mine efficiently released. Okay. It's time-based. Ah! No, Kitty! You okay? Cat's not happy about the water. It's like, nah, I don't like this water, mate. Get me out of here. Oh, a bottle filled with a considerable amount of glims. Old shoe, soggy and smelly. Old carpet. An odd substance that doesn't go on toast. Okay. Hello, we're going. Come on now. You want a hug? Thanks, but that won't be necessary. Right, fine. She don't want no hugs. Builds, fields. A field. Ha, it's better looking than I thought. It's a little je ne sais quoi, so simple but elegant. Now all you have to do is plant field seeds in there. Seeds can only grow in their respective places. Garden seeds won't grow in the fields, don't bother trying. But you know me, I would kill a plastic cactus, so don't take my word on this. Anyway, there's only one place where we could possibly find what we need. Theodore specialises in seeds. He has set up shop in Hummingberg, the busiest town of the area. Theodore and his brothers are the founders of Raccoon Inc., a shady retail franchise with very loose moral value. Tom Nook? Are you related to Tom Nook from Animal Crossing? Yes, this world has a serious problem with dubious business practices. Since I don't want to get swindled, I'll come with you and I'll do most of the talking. I've run into this cheeky little raccoon once, and his dishonesty was blatant. Let's head to Hummingberg then. We just need to find some seeds for that field. I'm telling you, that's Tom Nook. Thanks, I love it. I gave her fish. There's jellies up there. Resources over there. I want the resources first. But it's gonna be night time, so I won't make it to the resources. Oh well. Sure. See what we get. Yeah, the ship's gonna be stopping. All I'm getting is shoes. How many shoes are in here? Why do people lose all their shoes? Okay, that's not a shoe, that's a fish. I'm robbing the fish of their shoes. Okay. I didn't realise that was a thing. I didn't realise fish wore shoes. I mean, since when is that a thing? It's bedtime anyway. not only more. Oh, it is time. Bing, bing. Thanks, that won't be necessary. Okay, fine. You're hungry? No, not hungry yet. Okay, fine. Oh, there's resources. Can I cook? I can cook these. Hummingbird awaits. Yeah, well, I want the resources though. I need the resources. Can I can't. I wanted to get this off my ship, but I can't. Oh, you can't do. Oh, you hugged the cat. Oh my god. No, you can't hug the cat. Look. Look. Wait, wrong thing to do. Hey, see, look. Oh, you can't hug the kitty. That's so cute! You feel furs! I love it! Cat really gets terrified in the water, though. Oh, I love that you can actually just hug the cat. That makes me so happy. Ooh! We made steamed shellfish! Oh! Kitty go meow! Oh, they're so cute! Or so you could just leave the boat? Huh. That's interesting. Where are you going? All right, we're here. Let's buy some seeds. Theodore's set shop up on this island. Let's pay him a visit. I wanted to get the muscle off of my ship. Come on, kitty! I'm out here looking for the right house to start a family. My wife sent me out to find something that might fit our needs. A garden, maybe a pool. I'm not asking for much, I just can't decide. I know that you can't help me, but it helps to say it out loud. Might stumble on the rarest of finds. I'm going home. Don't follow me, please. I hate it when people know where I live. If you know my address, you'll tell people, and they'll tell people. Listen, I just don't want junk mail. I mean, that's valid. No one likes junk mail. I don't think anyone likes junk mail.
Yeah, I hope my next game will be ready soon. Of course, the data is spent 5 nights theory crafting. Clearly, if you take the heavy weapon proficiency from the Mountain Gnome race, there is a nifty synergy with the level 3 rogue ability Eviscerate. It's for sure a bit weird, but hey, 5d20 and an auto crit on prone can't be defeated, am I right?
You're playing Dungeons and Dragons, and this spirit's talking about Dungeons and Dragons. Send help! The game is aware! I almost had it, dang it! Do I have to go inside? Oh, I have to go inside, okay. Oh! A stroll a day keeps the doctor away, which reminds me, I haven't been to the doctor in forever. Oh no. Why did I think of that elbow all of a sudden? Am I suddenly starting to feel unwell? I am not sick. I am okay. Oh. Taking a look at this shrine, Stella. It's simply stunning. Some objects in this world are meant to resonate with the Spiritfarer and the Everlight. I've heard this monument has power to enhance the Everlight's abilities. The 2 slots on it needs to be filled up. I'm fairly certain you can use obols to activate it, but to get obols you need to welcome more spirits on your ship. I'm sure you'll find more lost souls like me. I simply adore your hat. A local shop Raccoon Inc. only carries garbage wares. Seeds, logs, rocks, all useless items. I need me a hat like yours. Begone, stranger. My favourite spot is this bench at the end of the pier. It's beautiful and quite peaceful after a long day's work. Oh my, I shouldn't have told you if I wanted to keep it that way. I guess not. I'm busy, miss. Okay. Oh, let me guess. I'm a bit of a psychic, you know. Your name is Mary or Marguerite? It's Missy. Wait, no. Is she? No, you don't tell me it's... Oh, shoot. I'll get it. Someday. Good. There's Theodore. Go ahead, take a look at what he's selling.
Step right up, potential prospect. Welcome to Raccoon Inc. We've been servicing hummingbirds since forever. You've got the glims, I've got the goods. All the ways to make you spend those hard-earned glims. Step right up.
Failed. What was that? Those prices are out of control. I won't let him get away with this. Are you ready to see me obliterate this merchant? Yes. Good, let's do this. Thank you for the posture check. Theodore, I know what you're doing here, and you should be ashamed of yourself, you trash panda. People like you are the reason we have middle fingers. Thank you for the drink. I gotta open it. And I don't want it to explode everywhere.
What? Nada, what's the meaning of this?
My friend here is the new Spiritfarer, but she's not a newbie, and neither am I. That little scam of yours won't work on us.
But I can assure you, my business practices are quite above board.
Be warned, you treacherous striped weasel. I won't tolerate this behaviour one more second. No more shenanigans, no more double crosses, just fair prices. Stop being dishonest at once. Next time I see you, I'll try being nicer. If you stop being smarter. Got it?
But, yes, of course. I promise you I'll adjust my prices. I beg you, please don't scold me anymore. I'll even give you a discount.
No, exploding drinks are not allowed. Hey, you! Yes, you! Your friend really gave that greedy merchant some help. You both look like you could possibly join the upstairs crew. You want to come up, don't you? I can see it in your eyes. I'm not going to lie, it's pretty cool being up here. Yeah, all the best people are up here. Don't get too excited, though. Some idiot broke the ladder. You have to be able to jump. You're inhumanely high to make it. I guess you could also use the stairs in their house. But some other idiot lost the key. Well, anyway, see ya. Upstairs crew forever! Fantastic. If you got everything, I'll take my leave. Feel free to stay here as long as you want. I'll meet you at the pier. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna go for exploding drinks. I'm busy, miss. Yes? Oh, I thought you had something to say. Wow! Yes? Oh, I thought you had something. Wow! I'm busy, miss. Where the guy's from? I thought you had something to say too. I'm busy. There's the Dungeons and Dragons key. No, I don't have enough money to buy the key. But that's okay. Looks great. Now you can plant seeds in there. Give it a go. How? Oh! Okay. Awesome. Your thumb is as green as your hat. This boat will soon become a cozy floating farm. Don't forget, you probably have to water the plants once in a while. Don't ask my word for it, though. My gardening knowledge is as limited as my father's empathy. You have to find better mentors than me. Which reminds me, I believe it's time for you to find new people. Not that I don't love the idea of us, of just the two of us cruising the oceans. But you are the Spiritfarer, and Spiritfarers find spirits, and yes, help them fulfill their last wishes, however mundane they may be. I've heard of a place not far from here where someone might be in need of your help, and I'll bet you like this one of his, who I think he is. Go, let's sail. Is that shellfish? Oh no, no. Not for me, sorry. No, sorry, Stella. You know, I can't eat fruit for the life of me. I've tried, but I just can't. Do you want this? Oh, thank you, Stella. I love comfort food so damn much.
right. I had a really bad headache on Monday, so that's why I ended up not doing the collab. And then it turns out that my blood pressure was stupid high. So how are you? But how are you? I'm better now. This game is cute. Oh, so we can't go there because it's covered in a storm. I mean, I guess we can try. Yeah, it was stupid high. Oh, that's cool. Sorry, the spirit orb waters the stuff too. Why? I didn't even say. Aww. Oh, you're funny. Rain really ruins and day, doesn't it? Aww. Feeling much better. If you do exclamation mark Pokey Shop and then Ultra Ball and then the number of Ultra Balls you want after it, all spaced. So Pokey Shop, exclamation mark Pokey Shop, space, Ultra Ball. Like that. Then you should be able to get Ultra Balls. Oh! Okay. You can at least get Pokeballs, maybe. I still can't get over the poor cat. That poor cat. It's not. I mean, so do I. Pretty much every stream I'm in has it. Hi, Taz! I'm loving it so far. It's cute so far. Hey. Oh. Right. You're here. Listen, I just dropped a lemon in that pond. My fingers are all sticky. It just sort of slipped. Why? Good question. I've been eating delicious berries all day. Look at my hands, I swear. I've been experimenting. I wanted to squeeze a little bit of citrus from this wild fruit. Now it's just berries with no twist. Unless it's just down there in the water. Do it myself, but I had these pulpy fruits to take care of. Lemon! That's the one. I'll just need to find a tissue or something. I don't want to get buried all over it. Never mind.
Just hold on to that lemon for me. Don't go and squeeze it. Wait a minute. Maybe you could help me. Silent is fresh out of food. My stomach always feels empty. Maybe I could even help out aboard ship. With cooking, fishing, and building. I don't know about spices and tools, but I'll make it work. Don't think about it so much. Let's just go to your boat. Anywhere else to go? No? Okay. Back to the boat. I'll be your favourite new passenger. Just you wait. You gotta do exclamation mark pokey pass. Yeah, I can help you. Are you a froggy? Stella! Oh wow, this boat is amazing. Here comes a real kicker, you little rascal. Get ready for a family reunion. Warning! Flashbang! It's a frog! Oh my god, he's so cute! It's me, Stella! Your Uncle Atul! Surprised? Happily, I hope. I've been on the island for a while now. I can't wait to see the sights, the sea with you. It was lonely with my thoughts. Now I got you, Sprout. Let's set sail for a great adventure. Onwards! Wait a second. Is that Froggy, come back! Where are you going, Froggy? I knew it! That's a Seamaster 2000! I've actually never seen it in action. I've only heard the rumours. Apparently you can catch the biggest and brightest fish out there. Wow, Stella, you sure know how to treat yourself. Wait a darn second. You're missing a few bolts, let me guess. You've been fishing mostly garbage. Well, not anymore. Thank you, Froggy Man. You're so cute. You'll see the difference immediately. Give it a go for a fan. Froggy! I love you, Froggy. I love the frog. I want to forever keep Frog. Ooh, I got a squid! Look at him! Look at how excited he is! Oh my god, he's so cute! He's just so happy! They never stood a chance! You sure don't mess around, that's what makes you a pro! All this ace-level fishing has gotten me all rattled up, which reminds me, I had this shiny thing in my pockets on the island. I have no idea what it does. Maybe you can hold on to it for safekeeping, I suppose. Oh, brother. I need to take a breather. Oh, and by the way, you might be curious and might have already tried, but yes, the water is very salty. Well, I'll go and take a look around. You can fish to your heart's content if you want. He's so cute! Would you look at that? You've got 2 ovals. Remember that shining hummingbird? I'll try and add them there. If I were lucky, I might do amazing. If we're lucky, it might do something amazing. If not, you'll waste your time. You should go see. They're so cute. Gotta get some resources. Can I hug you? Ah! A little hug always brightens my day. You hungry? Oh boy! why! I just love food! Keep them coming! I can't get enough of it. So he just really likes food. I'm fine, thank you. Are you hungry? Thanks, I love it. Okay, so she liked the fishy. Perfect! Say trash! Quick, jump in the water! There's wreckage! I'm sure you'll find some helpful materials in there! Yeah, you're right. Oh, I got a necklace? Oh! What's the necklace door? Oh, so I guess you could give it as a gift? I guess. Our squid's almost done cooking. Squid! We need to go back to Hummingbird. Okay, so I've got to watch the colour of the rod. If it gets to red, I need to stop reeling in. Oh no! Well, got a bottle. Hi, Larry! How are you? Kaiser, are you around? Stella, quick, come here. This is what I call a storm. Any respectable person would never let their friend get hit by lightning. But I think you should try it. Can you give Larry a shout out for me, please? Larry is one of my fellow members of the Team Clancast. You hold the Everlight. It will protect you. The lightning bolts cast sparkles when about to hit. Rush toward doors. Thank you. I almost forgot. You got any empty bottles? If you hit by lightning with an empty bottle, you get lightning in a bottle. Isn't that bananas? This world! Lightnings and bottle are pretty handy resource. So come here. So come equipped. As a head start, here are a few bottles for you. Don't worry, they're pretty easy to come by. Get ready for the thrill of your life. He's playing music! Oh my god, I love him! Cat! for the clip!
Cat! Cat, are you gonna get hit by... Cat, stop! Cat, damn it! You're not a lightning rod! Cat, stop trying to channel your inner Benjamin Franklin! That's not how this works!
Oh, thank goodness. I wasn't sure if you were gonna make it for a second there. You gave your old uncle quite a scare. Did you feel that rumble? What a rush! You look pretty awesome catching those jolts of lightning all over the boat. Thanks for being the best captain I could have ever hoped for.
We have ads in 8 minutes, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause here, so that way those who come in do not get any sort of pre-rolls, and I'll see everyone on the other side. And welcome back from ads, Ohana. Let's get back into this adorable game. Oh, we have to go to sleep until morning. Thank you. By the way, those who saw me pop up for Larry, please do go give Larry a follow. Larry is absolutely hysterical. I watched a little bit of
Larry with Beardley, and can I just tell you, it was absolutely funny. Morning, folks!
Wakey, wakey!
Oh! No, I am not! I am not exaggerating. Yes? You wanted to talk to me? Jeez, you gotta love the sights here. The sea, the sun, the breeze on my skin. It just feels so right. I'm happy to be aboard this ship with you, my niece. I wish your Aunt Viv could see you right now, running your own ship, helping out these stranded souls. It really warms the heart. I'm glad you picked me up on that island. I'll try and make myself at least the least cumbersome passenger on this boat. Except for food. I'll never stop asking for delicious meals. Glad you came to talk to me. Like I said earlier, we needed more people on this boat. New passengers. There's got to be a few people around, lost like I was. Well, maybe not exactly like me. I'm aware of a few things that might have gone unnoticed by most. That's probably why Father was always suspicious of me, and my mum gave me a whole time for it. Even with my terrible voice acting. I'm trying to voice act, but it's not the greatest. I made coffee! You want coffee? Now, this is one damn fine cup of coffee. I've had, and I can't tell you how many cups of coffee in my life, but this is certainly my favourite of them all. Thank you very, very much, Stella. Hug? Thank you. I figured he would be like a super excitable frog. Because he just seems super excitable. And like he loves everything. So I felt like he would be like on... He just seems like he would be on, like, life makes him hyper. He doesn't need any stimulant. Froggy, you want squid? The service on this ship is incredible. He is the stimulant. I've got something on my mind. Give me a minute. He's just over here, just like rubbing his belly, like, yeah, I'm gonna eat this squid. I love me some squid. Whereas, like, with the deer, when we encountered her, I was like, she's posh. She's posh, she's stuck up. She's very, like, to the point. We're getting our first new power! That guy over there is just like, what the hell just happened? I'm so confused. Somebody tell me what the fuck just happened. Why was that kid floating? Why was the cat floating? Why was there all this shiny light? Yeah, that's what I think. She's posh, but, like, she cares in her own way. Where are those empty... I had, like, empty... I guess I don't have them on me. But I had, like, these empty shells, and I don't know where they went. Sup, dude? You made it. Wicked moves getting up here. I kind of lied earlier. It's not so great up here. What you hear? So it might be better. I don't have a membership card for you. You'll be an honorary member of the upstairs crew. I'll show you the secret handshake, but I don't know where your hands have been. Fair. Fair. I'll be the same way, but like, I don't know where your hands have been. Ooh.
Hi. Yes, young person. Can I assume you're busy? Of course you're busy. Wait a second. You don't have a full-service kitchen. Come back when you do. I'll have quite the pitch for you.
All right, Granny.
Sheep!
All it does is just bite. You can't do anything. It's just bite.
My sister keeps asking me for money. How can I say no without saying no? Maybe I should ask someone to rob me. I just don't want to loan my sister money.
And he's a big sheep.
Aww.
Upstairs crew forever.
Oh. Hi. What? Oh. You gave me such a fright. Your cat. It looks familiar. Daffodil? Is that you? Oh, yes, it is. Ever so silky, aren't you? Then that must mean Stella? Is that really you? What a fantastic turn of events. And is that your boat over there at sea? You've come to rescue me again, I see. Well, not so fast. This time I'll be the one doing the teaching. You can bet on it. Let's get going then. There's some lessons to go through.
I thought I saw Chloe. Chloe! Hey, my birthstone. The birthstone Chloe. So I still can't. I have to get the key if I wanted to unlock this, but I don't really need to. Because I can just double jump. I'm gonna call you Chocolate. Because you're brown like chocolate. That's Chocolate the sheep. I will need the key though, so I can get in here to get this item. So I have to save up for that. This guy is just... Leave my door alone! I don't wanna! Stop rattling my knob! Lewd? Sir, that's very lewd. Sir, that is lewd. I'm sorry. I'm in a bit of a rush. Okay. Telling me to stop. That was lewd. Can I can't. Okay. Over here, little one.
Hi, Stella. All this air, all this open space. Yes, I feel I can grow quite nicely here. Look at me. I'm flowering already.
Flashbang!
It's a snake! It's a snake! Oh, getting out of this chrysalis, what a feeling. Thank you, Stella. Snake! Come here, you noodle! Come here, noodle! Stella, don't you think your boat feels a little sad? Well, it sure could use some greenery. As an added bonus, a small garden could serve as a nice classroom. I've been thinking about teaching this teaching thing for a while now. It'll be called Caring for Plants, from A to Azalea. Yeah, that doesn't ring as good as I once said out loud. Maybe I need to work on the name some more. You're so cute! It's a ball python! Okay, so we cannot put the garden there. But the garden can go right there. Okay, we can't talk to him, but we can hug him now. Oh, wasn't that great? Favourite niece of mine. Yeah, you're so cute. Oh, we have a shrimpy we can cook. We shall cook the shrimp. Maybe. I'll have to look. I would imagine you can. Yes, perfect. What a wonderful little garden. You really outdid yourself, Stella. Well then, that makes us just about ready to start on the first lesson. Make sure the M's and C's in these plots, they'll be important. Garden. Let's see now. Our first lesson will start with something I've been quite excited to share. This world has some strange rules, as you probably noticed already. I've always been a— Look! Look at the Snicky! Oh my god! I'm sorry! He's so cute! I've always been a future for love towards all living beings. For you see, a garden is a vessel of our love, a mirror we hold to ourselves. This seems truer now than ever. Back on our island and I was lonely, I sang to the flowers. As I expected, they grew so much more vigorously, though through trial and error I've managed to write a little song. Plants seem to react to these particularly well to it. I want to further test observation with you. Go inside the garden and try playing that piece to your crops. I gotta go make sure I don't burn my shrimp. Oh, the snake is so cute! Shrimp cocktail! Snakey! You want foods? You hungry? You want popcorn? Oh, thank you, but I'm not hungry right now. Can I give you a hug? Oh, he hugs with his tail! Oh, you're so sweet. The snake hugs with its tail! Oh my god! I didn't realise I've been doing Guitar Hero! how long is this? I know! I'm trying not to mess up at all. Oh! Quite incredible. Have you seen how the plants swayed and grew as you entertained them? Isn't that fabulous? As I suspected, emotions in this world manifest themselves much more vividly. Well, I'll make sure to spread the word about this fascinating discovery. And who knows? Other passengers might know how to play some music too. They might help if in good enough mood. Speaking of which, in all the commotion of the last few days, forgot something. Here, this is for you. The strange coin has been tickling me ever since I arrived here. Unbelieved it's not one of those pollen allergies again. Oh, he's allergic to pollen! Aww! All I could think of as I was doing that was I was playing Guitar Hero, and I was trying not to mess up. My brain literally was just like, this is Guitar Hero. Focus! It's a good thing I was doing it on controller and not on a keyboard. My fingers would not have been fast enough on a keyboard. Wakey, wakey! Ooh, got scallop. Empty shell. I have something to tell you. Stella, I didn't want to disturb you with this, but for the last several weeks I've been having strange dreams. Think of a giant snake in a menacing reefs and of rotten fruit. And since joining you and your crew, well, they've been much clearer. I think it's the air of the sea, or maybe the mystical energies of the Everlight. Anyway, I'm now convinced my dreams have been visions. And furthermore, I think they might be coming from a mutual acquaintance. I've been looking at the map in your cabin. My eyes keep being drawn to a specific spot that I marked. I think we should visit. No point in making it wait. You did good. Hi, dragon! Oh, Friday! Now you've got all your boats going, and you'll have to take care of these new passengers now. They'll be the ones testing your patience, not me. Before all that, I have to ask you something. What I've noticed by now, but sleeping in the guest house is not the ideal scenario for any of us, especially since it's getting crowded in there. Look, I'm not complaining, you know, but you've been terrific up to this point. And it would be terribly rude of me to blame you for anything. But I think it's time for me to have space of my own. A nice little house. Unpretentious but sophisticated with a cosy vibe. A space in which I could read and unwind from the turmoil of the deck. Oddly enough, I see something with an alpine flair. See, even I can be filled with nostalgia sometimes. Again, I won't be pushy on this. I'd be delighted if you could build it for me. What do you want, Froggy? There seems to be quite a few new faces aboard. I like it, don't get me wrong. I just don't want to forget about your old Uncle Attu. You know me, I'm Mr. Personality. I can get along with anyone, anywhere, anytime. I don't think I'd have to make new friends at my age. You don't have to worry. I'll be alright. So I even brought it up. I'll just go stand on the edge of the boat and take in this splendour, you know. Hopefully no bugs will fly in my mouth. That's no fun. He's hungry. You want shrimp? Delicious. I had a hankering for this. Ford, you want fish? Oh no. No. Stella, don't you remember? I don't eat any animal product. Breast milk, not over. Certainly they were not meant for our consumption. And the meat? No. Sorry, I impose my choices on others, but cannot eat that. Oh, thank you. I was quite hungry. A snake that doesn't eat meat? Interesting. Well. A snack would be great about now. I'll take comfort food almost anything. Well, how are you doing, Dragon? Okay, so I can edit. In theory... There we go. There you go, Gwen. There's your lodge. I love it. This cabin is outstanding. It really does wonders to have a place of your own. Doesn't it remind you of my old condo on Waverley? Probably the only place where I could get some peace and quiet. Thank you, old friend. I took a look at your blueprint station. It's nice, I suppose. But you know what would make it even greater? More plans, bigger buildings, better pencils! I'm just saying. I'm sure Albert at Albert Shipyard can help you out. That's what I thought. I thought all snakes were carnivores, but you know. This one's not. This one said, no, I'm gonna be different. Can I water this one, please? Thank you. I didn't mean to hurt them. Oh my god. So where am I going now? Maybe in this reality they do. So Snakey wants to go here. And we are here. I want to go to the crates first. Stella, I've been thinking about Folder recently. When you left with Doug, I didn't feel anything. No sorrow, no hate, no relief, nothing. It didn't really matter to me, but it mattered to you. You spent 3 days crying in old Petunia's room. I bought you 3 sisters and I gave you that damned oversized sweater I hand-knitted a month prior. Mum was appalled, but you felt better. Ron wondered why you were so sad, and the best I could come up with is that you were sad in my stead. Feeling things I couldn't feel myself. Thank you. Do you want a hug? Not right now, please. Okay, fine. Well, I mean, fair enough. diving for treasures. There we go. Got some limestone. Anything else for out here? No. And we'll head to these crates. They should be almost done. Steamed shellfish. I honestly like winter though. As weird as it sounds, I do. I like the cold. Plant some linen seeds. I would if I could, but I don't think I'm allowed to move to Antarctica. Sorry, you have a headache. Go take something for it. Feel better. There's nothing else here. Well, you know, that's good for them. I'm not going. Oh, that's cool! I made it into a yo-yo! Grilled veggie! So we need to go to Albert Shipyard. Oh, food's done. Bunch of popcorn. Coffee doesn't take too long to cook at all. Yes, you cook coffee in this game. It doesn't make that don't make sense, but whatever. I've got some thread here. I was going to use to wave some fabric for you later, but if you want, I can give it for you. Give it to you for you to wave. Do you want the thread? Here it is. Do you want popcorn? I like to try the whole menu, not the same dishes. A tiny restaurant is good. Here, have some coffee. That's what I call a perfect blend of coffee. That hits the spot. Food for your shellfish. I'm working my way towards a snack. You want a popcorn? Okay, you don't want food. I'll get it. Hello? Onion? Is that an onion? The hell? I'll be with you in a second, onion. out of here for right now. Are you an onion? It's an onion! Hello there, young lady. I guess you must be the new Spiritfarer. Let's make your acquaintance. Francis. You can say I'm sort of a wandering merchant. Are you an onion or are you a sloth? What are you? See, I'm very fond of things. Objects, curios, tchotchkes. I just buy everything. Simply put, I'll buy anything you don't want anymore. I'm sure you've come across a few valuable treasures already. So tell me, what is it you want to part with? You want a shirt? He wanted shoes. He likes old shoes. What do you have? Old seeds? Nah, I think... Okay. I'm immensely chipper to see a dynamic young lady doing ink so hard at work. Not that Chiron wasn't a true professional, but his manners were, well, a bit cold, if you know what I mean. Think of everything he found. What a pity. But you're here now. Huzzah! If I dare say. Oh, and don't fret, budding mariner. If I ever need it, old Francis will never be too far. Don't let it be an impediment to your appetite for future, your appetite for adventure. Go on, set sail, little blue jacket.
Well, I kinda can. You see, it's night time. I'm not allowed to set sail at night. You can't be talking until the night time, Grandpa. Very strange onion sloth man. I'm not really sure what to call him. Good morning, honeybee. You hungry?
Oh, thank you. It's quite hungry.
Good morning, Sprout. You want poppycorn?
The service on this ship is incredible.
Get our coffee, beans, waters, and our linen. I can't see because this guy's ship is in the way.
Turnips!
Want some more carrots. Off to the shark.
I've been getting your mail here for the past month. Not post office. Need to add a mailbox to your boat. If I get one more letter filled with glitter, I'll lose it. I'm warning you. You might be a customer, but I reserve the right to yell at you. Get it done.
maple planks or linen thread. Well, now I've upgraded my ship again. I don't have anything to do. I've got this surplus of energy. I need to get my hands busy. Can you do me a solid? You've always been my favourite niece. You know that. I think I need a place to focus energy. In a sawmill. Yeah. You just missing some of the key components. Materials, which I'm sure you can find on nearby islands. Counting on you to help me out. I'm sure you don't want your old uncle to sleep on the deck, right? No, I can't say I do. Goodbye, Francis. You're very strange. I'm coming. What do you want? Why were you inside? Sprout.
You've upgraded your boat.
That's weird. Don't tell Albert, but he left some loose bolts. He was probably just in a hurry. Give me a second. Here we go. Oh, mama! That did more than I thought. Let's see here. Wow, this boat's got some advanced options now. First up, you can travel safely and not go through all the dangers the sea has to offer. When you're using your back, you just need to toggle on safe travel mode. It's that simple. And don't worry, it won't stay on forever. Next time you select a destination, it won't be on. I hope that helps. What else do we have here? Oh yeah, the engine's been boosted. You can access multiple destination points. That's pretty handy. You can set your course and let the wind do its job. Besides that, it's just a big boat. Small room. Well, have fun. Can I build anything? I need quartz to build the loom. Linen thread to build the sawmill. Coal and oak planks to build the foundry. Oh, so you can actually improve things. Interesting. Okay. I'm learning all sorts of things. I just got a fancy vase. Who drops a vase? Who dropped their vase in the ocean? Which one of you did it? Which one of you said I'm dropping my vase in the ocean? I got a message in a bottle. Nice catch, Sprout. Yeah, just fished out a bottle from the sea. That's not trash. Could be anything in there. A tiny ship, old wine, a baby crab. Yes, yes, it could even be trash. Go ahead, crack it open. Greetings from Foroga. I was reading that! Greetings from Forogawa. Experience the wonders of the Great Oak Forest and the serenity of the magnificent rice fields. Available now in Gurinu Fields. The lemon cloak is actually made of plastic. Oh, this is ready.
check everything up here. So cute. Plant all of this and make it all watered. Out we go. I wasn't trying to hug the cat, but that's okay. I will give the cat a hug. Animals deserve love. Ooh, copper. Hi. Hey. Came here to cut down these trees, but forgot my axe. I'm not gonna start using someone else's axe. That would be strange. I like the way my axe feels. It's so sturdy and it calms me. Oh, I miss that axe. I've been passing the time by writing letters and throwing some in the water. Been writing poetry. It's not very good, but I'm getting better. Hopefully no one finds my terrible poetry. Tree chopping, tree chopping. Chop some more trees. Raspberries. Oh, what's this? What are you? A ring! A valuable ring. Interesting. Why can I drop down here? Is there a reason? Doesn't seem like there's a reason. So that's all that island was just stuff for making, crafting. Right, light! Francis! So I need to get more quartz. Okay. And linen thread. So I've got to make the loom first before I can make the sawmill. You hungry? The service on this ship is incredible. Well. I could go for an amuse bouche. What the hell does that mean? This is outrageously good. Comfort food always tastes so good. The snake's down there. Snakey, I've got food for you. Oh, thank you, but I'm not hungry right now. Okay, fine. And that is limestone. Not what I needed. Coffee beans, okay. Definitely still good on the seeds. What are you? Dive! Thank you for the drink and the posture check. Oi. And let's see. We're going to Quartz Dragon. Cook the coffee beans real quick. Oh, it's so strange. You have to cook coffee beans to get coffee. Make sure everything's watered. Carrots are done. Why are you watering the same spot? Damn it. Snakey, you hungry now? I thank you, but I'm not hungry right now. Do you want hug? Ah, you're sweet. Do you want to talk? Rain really ruins a day, doesn't it? Rain is great, but Snakey no like rain, and that's okay. Oh, Snakey wants to talk. Look at the Snakey! Oh my god, look at him! Oh, this? I thought that might be it. Dragon. Guess it's inevitable it would be here. Following me. Always, even in this world. Our destinies, well, they are intertwined, are they not? Still, for the harm it has done me, it looks quite in pain, doesn't it? Looks its back seem to be oozing with corruption. Perhaps chipping away at them might soothe it. Go ahead, Stella. All creatures deserve love and care. Do what you do best. I fell into the water. I can't help him if I'm in the water. Wow, that was something! Whacked him in his head! I feel bad, I just gave him a very massive headache. Oh my god! I don't know where I'm going other than to give this guy a fucking headache. I'm sorry! He's gonna have one hell of a migraine! I can't imagine getting hit in the head with a pickaxe feels too good! wonder what it means. If we were to ever cross this dragon's path again, I think we should help it. However, I might feel about it. For now, though, I need some time to collect my thoughts. Thank you, Stella, for everything. Sorry, I'm not yet attuned. You want food? Okay. The froggy's drooling in his sleep! More poached fruit. I feel bad. I just whacked that poor dragon in the noggin. No, I am not. I don't claim to be. Well, the loom is done. Added that to the ship now, which that'll make the deer happy because she'll have something to do. Good morning, honeybee. That's done. Alright. Can I just talk to her? Like, thank you. This loom looks fantastic. Don't be scared. It's in perfect working order. Let me show you how it works. You put fibre inside and then you spin. You just have to make sure you hit the target. And you get a little extra if you hit the marker needle. See? Pretty easy, right? Now you try it. Try it with this fibre. Good job. This is actually not that difficult. Not as bad as the fishing or the pickaxe, that's for sure. See, it's not that hard. The machine does all the work, you just have to flow with it. And that's what makes it so soothing. The rhythm, the sounds, the feel of it. Utterly satisfying. I'll probably give it a go myself when you don't need it. Don't worry about the materials, I'll manage. Okay, we have ads in 9 minutes, so I'm going to pause here and I will run ads and I will see everyone on the other side. Welcome back from ads, Ohana. Let's get back into this adorable game, shall we? Morning, Sprout! Did you know you can catch different fish when it rains? Maybe they like to come up to drink fresh water that's different, mate. Pretty neat, right? You hungry? I've got fruit. You want fruit? The service on this ship is incredible. I want to see. That's not a fish. See, this is a fish, that's for sure. Black tiger shrimp. Okay. Onion. Let's go to the fields. Why not? Fields. Sawmill. Wow, this looks amazing. Thank you for helping me out, Stella. His sawmill is so big. Oh, beauty. There's just one problem. I take it, mate. I don't have any money to repay you. I guess that's why I caught a favour. You see what I did there? Thanks again, Sprout. A storm! Let's try and get some lightning. Remember, your Everlight will protect you. What do you say? There's a spirit. Just down below it. Oh boy, here we go again. The cat's gonna be a lightning rod. Missed that one. Cat, you're not a lightning rod. Bad, I guess. Thank you for my ball back. You're doing it all wrong. Let me give you a hand. When you're cutting logs, you need to make sure your measurements are accurate. Then you cut. Measure twice and cut. You need to keep star blades steady on the cutting line. If you don't do it properly, you'll end up losing a pinky or an arm. Or something worse. A hit from the old hammer. Good luck. Give it a try now, you rascal. want to get it fully or not, where it's fully cut. And we're at Gurnu Fields. Would you look at that? I want to go back in and talk to the froggy. You did great. You ready to set good one like a champ. Just remember to be careful with this soul meal. Don't go and mess around with dangerous soul blades. Just because you've got leftover wood doesn't mean you should cut your hand off. You've been chopping it up in that sawmill! I like it. Getting the work done. Learn a new skill. Now you've got some materials, maybe you can build me a house. Let me sketch some real quick. Look, it's nothing fancy. It's pretty basic. A few hinges here, a few nails there. Oh, you already got some materials to build me something nice. Asking only from me, but for the crew. Apparently I snore at night. Loudly, according to your friend Gwen. The service on the ship is incredible. I'm trying to get to the corn. Corn is done. Go check on this stuff. Carrots. Plant more carrots. No, I did it. Carrots are done. Stella, I've got to tell you, there's something I stumbled upon us some time ago, and up until now it didn't seem that important. Brace yourself. I remember my parents' manor on the lake. As weird as it sounds, it's not too far from here. Yes, I know. It makes me want to make this world too. I must admit, I've been actively trying to avoid it. At any rate, it's become hard to ignore. As I spend more time with you, yeah, I think I'm ready to tackle this challenge. Probably only find regrets and sorrows there, but it's worth a shot. That's the location to your map. I'll be ready whenever you are. You want popcorn? A little variety, please? Okay, you want coffee? That's what I call a perfect blend of coffee. That hits the spot. As you know, I tend to get hungry. That's just fact of life. Sometimes when I tell you, I get hungry for really specific things. Your Aunt V would call it a laser focus tummy. Don't get me wrong. I'll still eat pretty much whatever you put in front of me. I'd still if you to put some effort into this one. I'll give you a shout when I get a craving. Hopefully I won't ask for anything too extreme. You never know with this appetite. Fair warning, Sprout. Now he wants a house. Goodness, I can't put his workshop here at all. There's no space. So, can I edit?
there's just not enough space no matter what I do. I'll have to upgrade the ship. Because there's not enough space no matter how we slice it.
Tired recently, and I'm afraid to say that it's starting to weigh on my morale. I don't want to sound ungrateful, but I think the guest house, as solid as it is, might not be very good for me. It's a bit too noisy and quite cramped. I hate to ask of you, really, but could you maybe arrange for me to have a little private space on the boat? I think it would help me tremendously. Then we could continue our lessons, but nothing too fancy. Just a place to sleep and meditate, with lush greenery, perhaps. Oh, and I'd be delighted if it had natural stones. Yes, that would be splendid. Thank you again, Stella. Let you play. Oh, you found my weak, sweet spot, dear. Can't say no to a dessert. A delightful sugary perfection. Thank you very much.
You know me.
I could always go for a little snack. Something salty, something boring, something with flavour. Oh, tease. You know what would be just perfect? A big old bag of popcorn all to myself. Just go ahead and heat up some corn. That really didn't fill me up. However, it did make me miss my kids a whole lot. I used to make bags of popcorn on movie night for them. Even with TV turned up, you couldn't hear the actors talking. The cussing was so loud. It was the only way to calm those little monsters down. Also, all these terrible kids' movies. Oh, it's all still there. See them laughing. Then fall asleep on me. Thank you for this popcorn. I was looking at your kitchen yesterday. It's fine. Nothing special. It reminds me of my first kitchen in my terrible apartment. I didn't know what I was doing in there. I was so careless with the spices. Not enough salt. Anyway, here's a little something to brighten this mess up. Don't worry, it's not spice rack. You need to actually work for it, but it'll be worth it. Just improve your kitchen with some extra oven space. Your kitchen will be looking just right in no time. Plant some more seeds while we're here, and oh well, that one's done. More coffee beans planted. Corn. Hi, Froggy. Our Froggy is very, very limber. The snake's playing a music! Oh my god! That's just adorable! I don't know how it's playing it with no hands, but I'm not gonna question it. I need linen fabric, and I need 12 of those. Okay. Let's go explore this island. Oh, a visitor. Welcome. Are you here for our world-renowned Furugawa tours? Of course you are. You're holding our brochure. The tour's about to start. Takes about 5 minutes and covers the history and flora of this island. After, you'll be able to tell all your friends about it. Don't worry, there's no gift shop after this tour. Ready? Perfect. Let's start right away. Ode to an axe. A lumberjack without an axe, crying and sobbing. All trees aren't feeling the cutting. Will grow old, they said, laughing. As you can see, this island doesn't get many visitors. People tend to focus on big city attractions. Here, it's peaceful and quiet. That's something you'll notice with the fauna. Rice patches and a healthy forest are its main attraction. Moving on. Over here, the rice rice production here is quite incredible. Workers harvest around the clock to feed local families. Right now, no one is around. I am not sure why. I sometimes play in them when I am off duty. That is besides the point. I'll try not to stop. Step off, please. Alright. You can feel the humidity. I mean, really feel it. Psychic force really gets to me. We have a connection, a strange connection. I tend to skip this part of the tour, to be honest. If you could move along, that would be great.
Be with you in a minute. I'm just casually cutting trees down, but you don't know that, and I'm not gonna let you know that. They'll grow back, I promise. Mushroom!
Speaking of which, this fortune tree is the centrepiece of this whole island. We are not sure when it was first planted. People from all around would travel here and leave little messages. Anything to help with their lives. Alright, this concludes our tour. Furugawa Tours was grateful for your participation. Thank you for your ears and your patience. Thank you again for your presence. If you'd like to leave a tip, that would be appreciated. I recommend something along the lines of 50 glims. That's amazing. I knew I struck a chord with you. I'll sign you up to our upcoming tours newsletter. You'll have an educational great time. Thank you for your kind spirit.
Sheep! Ooh, strawberries. Oh. Almost missed this. Another citrine. Okay, I want to know how to get up there. I want to get up there. Let me up there. There's a guy up there. Why won't you let me up? I guess I'll have to come back. That sucks. Hi, sheep. Get out of here and head back to the ship. You want oak planks for your house. Okay. Onion! Onion sloth! Hi! If you ever have any I'm always interested. Maybe we could even trade. You give me your useless objects, I'll give you mine. Just the sort of new curios make my head spin. I've neatly organised my stock in errands. Take a look for yourself. A wonderful item, and it's pronounced vase, not vase. Should be sold. A beautiful specimen of the one true ring, but this doesn't rule anything except your wallet. Should be sold. Lord of the Rings reference. Let's go. Oh my god, that's a Star Wars
kids everywhere. I love it. Oh, well, I can give you that right away, sir. Well done. You completed your first errand. What a great haul. There's plenty more to do if you ever feel like it. I'll always be around. You hungry? You're not hungry. Do you want a hug? No. Yeah. Don't you feel better now? Yeah, I do. Do you want a hug? Yeah. A little hug always brightens my day. You want some food? Delicious. I'd hungry for this. I've got that weird feeling. I'm actually rather hungry. Do you want fruit? Don't get me started on fruit. They've ruined some of my best dresses. Okay, fine. Do you want popcorn? This is outrageously good. Comfort food always tastes so good. So about my house? The guest house just doesn't cut it anymore. I know! Oh my! We're going to Albert Shipyard. Goodbye, Grandpa Onion Thing. I'm still not really sure what that thing is. Squid! Bay shrimp? Alrighty. Am I gonna get anything else to fish? Okay, there we go. Another squid! Let's go! Oh, black tiger shrimp, let's go! Time for beds? Maybe? Once again. The dragon is back, Stella. Should we help it? Alright, let's get ready, Colby. We're helping the dragon again! Which, I don't know how hitting it in the head helps it, but, you know. I'm so sorry! I feel really bad about this. Just hit it in the head. That helps it. Don't you know? this way. I mean, at least I'm getting chords, but goodness. I just feel so bad. My brain's not loading. I don't know what I'm having a moment. But okay, whatever. I mean, I'm just giving it a headache, apparently. A really bad headache. Right. There's the head of the dragon. And we're done. Apparently. Incredible. It looks relieved, doesn't it? Wonder what it means. We haven't crossed this dragon's path again. I think we should help it. However, I might feel about it. For now, though, I need some time to collect my thoughts. Thank you, Stella. Everything. Time for sleepies. Ring, ring. Yeah, I feel like it's more like, what did you do to me? That really hurt my head. Thanks. But, you know, game says I'm helping it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. Ooh, mackerel! Another squid. I've got something on my mind. Give me a minute. You want Ford? He's always hungry. Yeah, apparently. Let's see. Make the coffee. It was just a mackerel. Just a regular old mackerel. Coffee beans are cooked. And let's see. Let's see what happens when you cook strawberries. Now I've heard the joke. I've heard many a joke. That's done. Get my carrots. Oh no, I'm almost out of veggie seeds. That's the last of my veggie seeds. Don't forget what? We will. I will improve the kitchen. I can't do anything right now. I have no space, people. I'm just waiting for these strawberries to finish cooking. Oh, it's just poached fruit. Okay. I need linen fabric. Are we making fish jokes now? I heard they just fired an employee at the popcorn factory. He was a good worker, but they found him sleeping on the cob. Not funny. Oh, I need oak planks. Dang it. I've got mail. A letter from Albert. Stella, make sure you change the dress permanently. Or more letters coming shortly. Making sure you keep up with the writing. Pen pals are the best pals. Everyone knows that. Albert, you know shipwright. Look at all this space! Now I can move the kitchen back downstairs! The weird onion's here again! Everyone waking up was to cute me. I know! I'm terrible, just like, I'm moving your houses, sorry! I gotta go in here now to cut the arc. once at a rotating restaurant. It literally, the restaurant literally rotated, so you got to see the view of like everything around you. It was really strange. Because, like, if you got up to go use the toilet and you came back, your seat may not be where it was. It may have rotated somewhere else. Trying to focus. Oh, you know, I don't know if that restaurant's even still in business. But it was definitely an experience. Yeah, I know about that. Well, I can build the summer sanctuary. I need coal for the foundry. I don't know how to get linen fabric, so...
Oh, how wonderful. Incredible, Stella. Wood, plants, there's even all natural room for meditation. You really outdid yourself. How well, sleep in that hanging bed. Yes, I'll be back to full health in no time at all, and maybe. Listen, I have a favour to ask you. It's become obvious to me that I need to take better care of myself. Let the body listen to the mind. To that end, I need clarity, I need power and energy. Positive minerals are what I'm missing right now. Stones and crystals that are connected to the world on elementary level. Just the moon is dark and the sun is hidden. When hidden from the sun, living beings, when their telluric link is severed. So Stella, what do you say? Could you bring me some gems and minerals to fill up my cabinet? 3 of them should be enough. And it won't be for nothing. You'll see. I can teach about all of the interesting properties of each one you bring to me.
I'm not surprised. I mean, there's all sorts of things. Oh! I don't want to sell that shit! Give me that back. So about my house? The guest house just got anymore. Listen, I'm trying. I just don't know how to get what you need, sir. Oh, I've got oh no. Workers unite! You are done being paid unfair wages. You are done being exploited for the benefits of the upper class. Saying aid to capitalist abuse. Rally to our cause of bottom line. Co-op working for union work for working denizens.
Dear customer, due to unforeseen supply shortages at our bottom line depot, Vacuum Inc. will no longer be able to supply a special rebate program for recurring customers. Please know that it is with great regret we have to inform you of this situation. Rest assured, valued customer, of our continuous efforts to improve it. Vacuum Inc. Trade is our family name.
Let's go to these crates. Goodbye, weird onion. Swath man.
Squeak!
Gotta take care of me plants. I'm getting so excited, I'm wetting me plants. I'm sorry, that was a bad joke. But you're not here for my jokes. At least I hope not. What's that? Limestone. Ooh, quite a bit of stuff out of that. Empty shell. I'm trying to get up there. There we go. No, I'll just know that my jokes aren't good. But with that being said, this is where I'm going to save the game. And I'm going to end stream. So I'm going to find someone to raid. Let's see who we can raid over to today. Oh, you know what? I know who we're gonna raid. We're gonna raid a fellow clan cast member of mine. We're gonna go raid Larry. If you are not subscribed, this is your raid message. If you are subscribed, this is your raid message. But do remember that you are loved, you are valid, and you matter. Do something to make someone smile today, because tomorrow is not promised and the world is hard enough as it is, especially now. Tell someone you love them. I love you, my Ohana. I will see you all tomorrow for our continuation of our playthrough of Silent Hill 2, the remake. But have a good night, everyone.